evening students, my name is Satya Chaudhary and today we'll be talking about animals, that is a poem in your class 10th NCERT. And in order for this particular lesson we have a special guest with us and he is Po. Po is from China and he is a panda, and yes, he is not a dragon warrior. He is just another simple panda from China, and our guest has told us many things about how animals have been treated in various places around the world. Isn't it, Po? Yes, right? So now he has told me other things as well, that how humans are exploiting animals, how they are killing them for their hides, for their skins, for their parts, bones even, and for various purposes. And even sharks are hunted for their fins. So Po here thinks that animals are much better than humans. So let's talk about our chapter and bid good night to our dear friend Po. Good night. Now let's introduce you to our poet, that is Walt Whitman. To talk about Walt Whitman, he was a romantic poet. He talked about nature in a great deal, at great lengths, and you can say he was one of the most influential American author, essayist and a poet. And Walt Whitman, his most famous work being The Leaves of Grass, that was his collection of different poems, and this is one of the poems that we have here from that particular work. Now Walt Whitman has great influence. He was greatly influenced by the Indian culture and the Indian ethos and belief system. He even wrote a poem called Brahma that again shows that his connections to the Indian roots and the Indian tradition and beliefs. You must have thought about the Indian gods in pantheon, right? So in Indian pantheon we have Lord Shiva, who has a bull called Nandi. We have Lord Vishnu, who has an eagle, and the name is Garuda. We have many gods who are associated with many animals. So we can say that Indian pantheon or the Indian mythology pantheon, they have innate relationship with nature, and the same nature can be reflected in our society when we are dealing with animals. But the scenario has changed drastically over a period of time, and animals have been hunted for their bones, for their skin, for their leather, and even for their feathers. And even animals are being eaten just for the sake of a culinary pleasure, and then the rest of the body is thrown away into the sea. So what is happening to our world when we are exploiting animals at such a pace where we are making species extinct greater than the space than what would have happened in nature. So today our poem is talking about, Walt Whitman is talking about that animals are much more better than human beings. How? He is talking about the qualities of animals, that how animals are better, how animals have a better sense, better ethics and better values than humans. And we who have evolved from animals have lost those values, and we have chased money, we have chased pleasure, and we have been greedy. We have accumulated a lot of sins over this period of time that we call Anthropocene. So one of the undercurrents of this particular poem is anthropomorphic, and the second undercurrent that we have is transcendentalism. So let's start our poem. So in this particular poem, Walt Whitman is comparing human with animals. I think I could turn and live with animals. They are so placid and self-contained. So he's talking about animals. They are so calm and so self-contained. They don't get angry. They don't express too many emotions. And yes, he says that I can live with animals. He thinks we have many works are based on that. We have Tarzan. We have the legend of Mowgli. So man living with animals. So that particular work is an exemplar of this particular concept, where man is living in coherence, in accord, in unison with the animals. I stand and look at them long and long. We have repetition over here, long and long. So he says that I can stare at them. They are so beautiful. They are so calm, and we can learn a great deal from the animals, and we can grasp a great deal of values from them too. They do not sweat and whine about the condition. They do not sweat and whine my job is so tough, my neighbor has bought so and so car, okay, I'm not getting a promotion. All these things are only limited to humans. As far as animals are concerned, they are happy, they are in nature, and they don't get out of balance. That is the most positive point that we can get from this particular poem, that the balance is maintained. Nature works on balance, and humans, despite being given the gift of wisdom and discrimination, have exploited nature and resources to our whims and fantasies, and just to satisfy our greed and not our need. Then they do not lie awake in the dark and weep for their sins. Now let's talk about killing. Killing is a sin. We have attributed killing as the most heinous crimes of all. And when we are talking about animals, they kill for their own hunger, they kill for survival. So for them, killing is not a sin, it's not a crime, it's just survival. So and whenever they are killing, they are not killing for pleasure, but to satisfy their hunger, to sustain themselves and their families. So the balance is maintained by these animals. They don't go out of balance. You must have read about food chain, food web, all these things, in your EVS and science lessons down in the curriculum. So you can see that nature works on balance, and if any part or any trophic level goes out of balance, then it becomes catastrophic. They do not make me sick discussing their duty to God. Man has waged wars. Man has waged wars in the name of God, and it's still being the case. The case of Taliban, the case of terrorism, the case of extremism. All around the world, not in just one country, all around the world this is happening. It happened in the past. Crusades was being fought, and crusaders were termed as the men of God. They were doing the work of God. So what was godly in killing other people? So man has waged wars which animals don't. Animals just kill for their satisfaction, for their sustenance, and never they have to repent for their killing. They never have to ask God for condoning their sins. So for them, God is just, maybe for a frog, God might be just a bigger frog, or for a cheetah, God might be a bigger cheetah. So we don't know. Then no one is dissatisfied, no one is demented with the mania of owning things. Today's world, we are so materialistic. We want accumulation of things. We have become too materialistic that we don't know what we need. We buy things we don't need. To impress people we don't know. And then we have to waste the money that we have earned so hardly and with so much of endeavors. So animals, they don't. Have you seen any animal moving along with the luggage? Have you seen any cheetah going on, with a portly on his back, with a rucksack on his back, and along with all the family? No, they are just happy in nature. They just move about the earth as happy as they are. So they live their life moment by moment, and that what Dalai Lama also says, that what ancient wisdom says, live in the present. So animals are living in the present, and we as humans are sad about our past and concerned and anxious about our futures. So that makes us just, you can say, just worrying beings and nothing else. No one kneels to another, nor to his kind that lived thousands of years ago. Animals don't discriminate on the basis of color. Animals don't discriminate on the basis of creed, caste, gender, or even place of birth. For them, everybody is equal. But yes, they protect the territory, and that also we do. We have soldiers fighting for our borders. But yes, we also have some social evils like that of caste system in our country. We have some social evils where women are being looked down upon, where women are not given equal status in the society. So animals don't have that place. Animals don't have that concept altogether. So they treat everybody as equal. Okay. Then no one is respectable or unhappy over the whole earth. Every animal, every being is happy as they are. If they have food, they are happy. If they are not, they search for it. They make efforts for it. They endeavor for it. and we as human beings, then we do the opposite. We whine and we crib, we get angry, and we get possessive. And during these times, we have many good examples as well. I don't say that human beings are all the negative that the poem is saying, no, but he's saying that we are losing these values over a period of time. We had all these values. Men used to take care of one another. The social construct of our society is starting to dismantle day by day. We are getting socially attached and emotionally detached from one another. We are getting socially attached through social media, but then again we fret over a call that we get from our friend. We just like to text. We like to text and we expect others to text us rather than to call us. That is a big question that I am posing in front of you. And neither animals have any system of caste, creed, color, or of any kind. So they show their relations to me and I accept them. So now the persona is saying that I am very happy that I have found such beings, such animals who respect everybody with equality, who treat everybody as equal. They bring the tokens of myself. So poet is saying that they remind me of myself as who I was. So here myself is the metonymy, or we can say this is the representation of the whole mankind. So animals are the value that animals possess and exhibit. They are a reminder to the humankind that you have to improve. There is still time you can turn back. So that what Poe said, the panda from China, that animals are being exploited. They are becoming extinct. Their places are being raided. They don't have a place to live. And then we complained about animals entering our territory, entering our homes, raiding the villages, because we have raided theirs. They bring me tokens of myself, they evince them plainly in their possession. They flaunt their values in possession. They don't hide anything, they have nothing to hide. They are just an open book. So they have exhibited their qualities, their good values on a daily basis. They don't have to become a better animal. A cheetah is a cheetah, no matter what. He will run as fast as he can in order to catch his prey. He will not run in order to show off to some other cheetah that, see, I am better than you. Do cheetahs do that? No. But humans do. Yes, I can do better than you. So we are more concerned with what other people are doing rather than we are concerned about ourselves. We are concerned with the competition rather than competing with ourselves. That is a bigger question. I wonder where they get those tokens. Did I pass that way huge times ago and neglectingly dropping them? Now the poet is saying that I also had those tokens, those values. So he is comparing those tokens to those values. So metaphor and metonymy is being used over here. We can say tokens are a metaphor for those values, those innate values that we as humankind also had. So I wonder where they get those tokens. Did I pass that way huge times ago and neglectingly drop them? So he's saying that I don't know. He's putting up a rhetorical question at the end. This question is rhetoric in nature. This need not to be answered. Any question which does not have an answer is called a rhetoric question. This is one of the new figures of speech that you'll be learning today. So rhetoric question in the last line. So rhetoric question, he poses a rhetoric question that did I drop these values somewhere? We don't know where these values have vanished, where we have started being so callous and discriminative about each other, where we have started misusing things, where we have started to go out of balance. So this is what animals are telling us. Animals are telling us to go back to nature, to be in coherence, in accord and in unison with nature. So very many points are being raised by the poet over here. The first one being religion, the second one being cribbing and whining about the condition, about greed, about malice, about envy. He's talking about that also. Animals don't feel all that. Do animals feel that, oh, okay, your tusks are more whiter than mine? Any elephant has been cribbing about it? I don't know. I don't think so. Then he's talking about the unacceptable, the unhappy behavior. He's talking about the hierarchy in the society. He's talking about the caste system, the color coding, apartheid, And obviously humans have waged wars even for nothing. So animals are a great deal to be learned from. That is what Walt Whitman is exhibiting in this particular poem. And we have very many figures of speeches over here. I'll not be going into detail into all of that because this poem is a very beautiful poem. You have to just catch this particular essence, you have to catch the particular theme. And I have already told you transcendentalism is one of the undercurrent in this particular poem. Transcendentalism is where animals are being assigned the human qualities. Right? So transcendentalism is one of the undercurrent, and then we have animism. Animism is attributing nature as a higher supernatural power. That means we get our values from nature. So nature is all giving and all forgiving as well. So, and anthropomorphic. Anthropomorphic is again related to the relation between animals and unison, the relation between man and nature, God, man and nature. This is called anthropomorphic. Right? So again, alliteration we have already dealt with many times in my previous lessons also. I want you to do this as a homework. I have done some of those. I have done some of these as homework. So I want you, I expect you to find them out what they are. Just to give an example, this is very, very simple. Anaphora, we have already talked about. Anaphora is the repetition of the first words in the consecutive lines. Alliteration you already know. And then we have elegy. Elegy is a sad, it's basically kind of a memoriam. It's kind of a remembrance of something. It's a sad poem where we are lamenting something about. So here the poet is lamenting about the values that he has lost. So elegy is a pretty peculiar tone of sadness is also there, that yes, we have lost something that was once ours. Then we have metonymy. Metonymy is that when one word is associated with another to explain some meaning. So we have tokens. Tokens is being used to explain or the concept of values. So tokens you can just say as kind of a currency. So values are represented as tokens. We have enjambment over here. The lines are being broken up and then put into the next line. Again, enjambment. Very, very simple. Apostrophe. Apostrophe, here the poet is talking to an audience which is non-existent, not present. So that is why that is a one-way conversation. That is why it is an apostrophe. We have free verse. Walt Whitman is basically called the father of free verse. Now what is free verse? In free verse, we don't have any internal rhythm, neither we have the rhyming scheme in the poem. That is called a free verse. And my dear students, free verse differs from a blank verse. In blank verse, we have internal rhythm but no rhyme. The ending part, the ending sound of every consecutive line gives some sound, right? So if they match, that gives us the rhyming scheme. Hey, over here, we don't have the internal rhythm also, and we don't have the rhyming scheme also. That is why it is called free verse. So free verse and blank verse are two different concepts, but somewhat similar, but then again different altogether. We have assonance and consonance, the twin figures of speeches we talked about many times. I expect you to find them out. Some of them I have marked over here. You can rewind my video and have a look at it. Okay. Then extended metaphor. Metaphor we have already talked about, the transfer of qualities from one thing to the other, the direct transfer of quality when it is taking place. For example, just to give an example, he was a loin in the war. So he was the loin. The line is the metaphor over here. Direct transfer of qualities, the bravery, the fierceness, the direct transfer of quality from the loin to the man. So that is called. He was like a loin in the war. Then again, there is a transfer, but then the transfer, he was like a loin altogether. All the qualities were not transferred. So this is simile. This is the basic difference between simile and a metaphor. Extended metaphor is when the metaphorical meaning extends to more than one line. And here in this particular poem, the metaphorical meaning is extended throughout the poem. That is why the whole poem is also extended metaphor. The tokens that we are talking about is the extended metaphor. The values he has been talking about, that is also the extended metaphor. Right? So this was all about it. I expect you to find out more about the endangered species. We have a list from that is being issued, that is called the red list from IUCN. You must have talked about it in your NCERT SST lessons in 8th class, 9th class, 10th class. So I expect you to go through those lists and see in India how many species are endangered, how much we have exploited, and what all things we are exporting illegally also. We have tigers. We are killing tigers for the sake of their bones, just to make balms, just to make ointments in China. We are killing sharks for their fin soups. The fins are being cut, the whole body of the shark is thrown into the sea, and just that fin is served in Chinese restaurants, and that it is considered that is also venomous and not good for human beings. But still, it is being consumed just for the sake of relishness and just to show, luxury, just to show that yes, we are superior. So that has to end somewhere. And see, now the nature is getting us back into balance through this lockdown and everything. This is a message. So I expect that it is still time that we revert back to our innate good qualities that we have, and we take care of our nature, of which we are an integral part of, and we call it Mother Nature for a purpose. That is, with this message, I will leave this particular lesson for you to think upon. It is quite a touching poem, so I expect you to read it once again from your NCERT book, or you can download it from your Google, and then you can have a look at it. And again, figures of speeches are very, very important. This poem is filled with metaphorical imperative, so have a look at it. Good night, everybody, and have a good day tomorrow.